Good afternoon, everybody. This is Mike Pelletier, and I'm speaking to you from my home in Maryville, Tennessee, on Monday, March the 27th, 2017, and this is today's edition of the Unvarnished Truth. And I'm speaking to you today about the healthcare debacle last week in the House of Representatives, which from all standpoints, from any standpoint, has to be regarded as a political disaster, if nothing else, for the nascent Trump presidency. Their efforts to repeal and replace Obamacare, which was a key plank in Republican races all across the country, and certainly President Trump's candidacy, failed. And, it's easy to assign blame. I don't really assign a whole lot of blame to the president. I assign a good deal of blame to Paul Ryan for the old bromide, nice guys finish last. And Paul is a very nice guy and a real policy wonk and really knows his stuff. But I'm not sure he's an arm twister in the Sam Rayburn, ilk of the Sam Rayburn ilk, or even, Lyndon Johnson in the United States Senate. But I think, primary blame has to lie, well, possibly with the bill. And I can't untangle all that, and I'm not going to untangle it here in a little video recording. I don't know all the ins and outs of whether it was the right bill to repeal and replace Obamacare, but certainly the opposition of the Freedom Caucus from a political standpoint proved the undoing of the bill. And all I would say about the Freedom Caucus is that, hey, look, I'm as conservative as the next guy, but I'm not sure this was the right place to make a stand. They could have given the president a little leeway here, given him a victory, and let him proceed to these phase 2 and phase 3 further reforms of health care, which he promised it would have come from Secretary Price, and then from some phase 2 and then phase 3, some subsequent legislation. But the Freedom Caucus wasn't willing to wait, and they shot the bill down. And all I can say is, where the Freedom Caucus is kind of missing the boat here, is that, once entitlements are granted, and the Obamacare was an entitlement because people got, many poor people, people not of means, got phenomenal entitlements. These subsidies amounted to a great deal. I have a friend, and I'm not going to identify he or she any further, but I have a friend who got has been getting last year or currently has a $700 policy for which my friend pays $29 a month. Those are the people who were protesting at these town halls about the repeal of Obamacare. It's funny to me that the news never mentioned this, that the congressmen who were being abused at these town halls never asked people for a show of hands. Who is getting subsidies under Obamacare? Of course, people getting subsidies under Obamacare would be against its repeal because by all accounts, the tax credits under the repeal and replace legislation were not going to be as great. I was recently at a party where the situation was underscored. I saw two women arguing, one getting subsidies and the other not. And the one who was not getting subsidies said her premiums were going up and her deductibles were going up, and she was getting less coverage. And she hated Obamacare. But the woman getting subsidies liked Obamacare. Well, there it is. and it's very difficult once entitlements are put in place to replace them. So I just think that the freedom call to take them away, Social Security, Medicare, Social Security disability, food stamps, you name it, whatever entitlement is granted, it's very difficult to take it away from a political standpoint. So I think the Freedom Caucus was, I mean, I understand where they're coming from a puristic point of view or a philosophical point of view, but as a practical matter, how many people are getting subsidies under Obamacare? 10 million? Unclear. You can't just kiss goodbye 10 million votes. And these are all adults, voting adults, who are going to vote against a party that takes away their Obamacare without offering some sort of replacement that also provides subsidies in some form or other. So, I just think that the Freedom Caucus made a big mistake here from a political, practical standpoint. And I would have to say that one of the problems now is, as they're already talking about, is that President Trump may pivot to the Democrats to enact the remainder of his agenda, and that's going to be unfortunate if he can't work with the Freedom Caucus because of their puristic nature. That's going to be a problem. Trump's going to pivot to the Democrats. So what do these Democrats want? What they've always wanted. What did Nancy Pelosi say to somebody? I've wanted a single-payer system since before you were born. But let's talk about that a little bit. Right now, at the risk of beating a dead horse, I'm going to beat a dead horse. Our current budget deficit is $500 billion a year, and our national debt, the accumulation of all those annual budget deficits right now, is at $19.8 trillion, nearly $20 trillion. Trillion. The annual budget deficit, as I said, is $500 billion. Of that $500 billion, $400 billion is attributable to Medicare, which is basically a single-payer system for seniors. Now, extend that to the entire adult population, young and old, to the entire population. Forget adult population. Everybody in the country is going to be covered under a single-payer system. They say that medicine, the health field, is 1/6 of our economy. Our annual GDP is 16, 17, 18 trillion dollars. 1/6 of 18 is $3 trillion. Now, are we going to? We're already $500 billion in the hole for Medicare annually. $400 billion in the hole annually for Medicare. 4/5 of our annual budget deficit is because of Medicare, and yet there's no fix in place. 1/6 of our economy is medicine. So we're going to be paying $3 trillion, not 400 billion as we do for Medicare. Now $3 trillion annually for healthcare, and taking what in our deficit. Our annual deficit could go from 500 billion, of which 400 billion is Medicare, to $3 trillion annually if we start absorbing the entire cost of everyone's medical care. I was opposed to Obamacare at the beginning, not because I'm opposed to socialized medicine or single-payer system. I mean, I understand that most Western democracies provide medical care to their citizenry. I understand that. But can we do so now when we already have $20 trillion in debt? Can we add another $3 trillion annually to the debt? Forget budget deficits of 500 billion, 400 billion of which is Medicare. We're going to be talking about annual deficits of trillions of dollars if we go to a single payer system, because we just don't raise taxes to pay for anything. I don't know what we think we're doing, but we just don't raise taxes or cut spending. We don't do anything. We just incur these deficits and add them onto the national debt. And I don't know what people in Washington think, that we're never going to have to pay this. Of course we are. If interest rates go to 5%, our annual payment on the debt will amount to $1 trillion. Right now, our interest payments annually are $200 billion, which is twice the federal budget in 1964. But if interest rates go to 5% from 1%, our payments on the national debt at $20 trillion are going to amount to $1 trillion a year, and we're talking about adding $3 trillion annually to the deficit if we go to a single payer system. So what I've recommended all along is that the caps on Social Security should be raised immediately, eliminated. I think right now, somebody told me that the cap is $115,000 and the rate is 7.5% matched by the employer. I don't know exactly what the impact on federal tax revenue would be, but I would assume it would be considerable if we started to tax 15% of all earnings, no cap on Social Security earnings, up to whatever, up to anything, whatever these mucky mucks make at the big corporations, 5, 10, 15, 20, 40, 50, $100 million a year, whatever, obscene amounts of money they're making, tax it all and eliminate the cap on Social Security and see what impact that has on revenues, and then start cutting spending. But for the moment, as I say, with Paul Ryan, nice guys do finish last. And I think at a minimum, the members of the Freedom Caucus should be punished for this. And they should, and I have a lot of respect for Jim Jordan. I like listening to him. I don't know who the members of the Freedom Caucus are, but Jim Jordan makes a lot of sense to me. But he's off the reservation thinking we can take away entitlements from 10, 12, 15 million people who are getting subsidies under Obamacare. It's just not going to happen. We'll lose their votes and we'll get run out of office. Maybe he won't in his district, but we're going to lose control of the House, Republicans or conservatives, lose control of the House, the Senate, and the presidency come 2018 and 2020. So I think that all members of the Freedom Caucus should be disciplined. They should lose all their good committee assignments, and none of them should be chairman of any committee. I don't know if any of them are. But Ryan has to move to punish members of the Freedom Caucus who blocked the effort to repeal and replace Obamacare. So, got a little passionate there, but bottom line, this is pushing us in the direction of the single-payer system, which will be a financial disaster of epic proportions for this country and will bankrupt us. Don't know that it's a bad idea. That is, from in the abstract, if we had no debt and we were willing to raise taxes and cut spending dramatically in other areas. But given the current political environment, given the current state of our finances, a single-payer system will bankrupt this country. And that's the long-term fallout from the defeat of this bill to repeal and replace Obamacare. So that's all from here on Monday, March 27th. And that's the Unvarnished Truth from Mike Pelletier signing off. Have a good day.